Hey, J-Bo Nation! Shaming of Jay. He's not a dopey dumb bitch. He gets laid. The court jester. The court DJ. It's time to dive into the case. To the case.
What is up, everybody?
Hello, everyone.
What's up, Donnie? What's up, Missy? What's up, Janet? Hey, Debbie. Hey, Bella. Oh, there's the emojis. Throw them up. Throw them up on the screen. What a night, babe. Are we excited or what?
Yeah, we're really excited. I feel like since yesterday, like when we were laying down last night, we were both like, Alina's going to be on the show with us tomorrow. And so we just haven't stopped being excited since
And
last night.
this is the first guest. First of all, we've had to go through a publicist, folks. So just so you know, Alina Burrows is the host of Crime Scene Confidential, which is in its second season on Investigation Discovery. New episodes premiere Wednesdays at 9/8 Central on ID. This is the first show that I have dyed my hair, and I'm wearing black. I'm wearing my Mac crime fighting shirt. So, and just a little behind the scenes, I was going to try to surprise Alina and have a hat on. However, when I was wearing it, it pushed my hair against my head. My forehead was pink, so I decided against that. So, but before let me give you a little bio on Alina Burrows. She served as a CSI for the Orange County Sheriff's Office. She worked. I got a little bit of an echo. Hold on a second. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Just trying to figure out. Do we still have the echo? No, I don't think so. Alina served as a CSI for the Orange County, Florida Sheriff's Office. She worked thousands of cases, including several high-profile violent crimes. She has spent many of those years as an instructor of forensic science and technology topics. Over the span of her decades-long career in forensic science and law enforcement, Alina has investigated some of the country's most shocking crimes. In ID series Crime Scene Confidential, Alina revisits astonishing and heartbreaking cases that made news across the country, using her scientific expertise to take a fresh look at the forensic evidence that was crucial to the prosecution. Alina speaks with central figures in the case, including law enforcement, family members, and friends of the victims, suspects, or even the convicted perpetrators themselves. So, without further ado, Alina Burrows. Hey, Alina.
Hey, guys.
Thank you so much for being here with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I could give you some tips on how to not get the pink on your forehead.
Yeah, we're going to have to discuss it after the show because I might make this a permanent thing. This is temporary, but I like it. What do you think, babe? I think
You look great.
Thanks.
Really cute. I mean, I like it better. I like the shade better on Alina, the shade of hers. So maybe if we like bleached you out and got you lighter pink, but
it's controversial, I'll tell you that, because I get a lot of feedback about it.
Yeah, what's the feedback you get?
It's the single thing that I get the most love and the most hate for. It's polarizing.
Really?
I never would have expected it because it's like, to me, it's just hair. I don't even pay attention to it. I frankly forget that I have pink hair because it's just hair. But it's a divisive topic, apparently.
Are you getting it like on the gram and Twitter or like people coming up to you?
No, everybody that comes up to me is like always tells me how much they love it. But yeah, social media, it seems to be a very mixed bag.
Yeah, it's always the tough guy behind the keyboard that wants to talk some smack. Yeah, we know how that is.
Well, do what you want with your own head.
There you go.
exactly.
So go ahead, babe.
Well, we always start this Women Who Rock show asking our guest what they were like as a child. So, what was little Alina like?
Little Alina. So I am an introvert. So I was pretty quiet. Um, I think about like things like what I asked for Christmas. I think those are the things that like define who you are as a kid. I definitely asked for books. I like to read a lot. I asked for science kits. So I always asked for those kits, geology kits. I liked rocks. I liked lab kits where you could, use chemicals and make like reactions, vinegar and baking soda, stuff like that. I wanted test tubes. I wanted stuff like that. Um, I didn't really play with dolls. I think I had a doll. Like I remember asking for a Cabbage Patch Kid when they were big.
Mhm.
But I didn't really play with Barbies or anything like that. I did watch the cartoon series Gem, which I feel like maybe subconsciously responsible for my hair. Um, yeah, Gem, I watched Gem. Um, I studied really hard. So I do remember taking the book home, and you know how the at the end of each chapter there were questions. Um, I would take them home and just do all the questions at the end of the chapter at once. And that way I didn't have to do homework each weekend. So I tried to like do all the homework early. So yeah, I was a studious little thing.
So, I mean, you started rocking out very early. That's pretty freaking cool. So from there, tell us what got you into law enforcement and then into crime scene investigations.
Let's see. I was in college. I started my undergrad degree is in communication. And I did that kind of intentionally. Being an introvert, I was afraid of public speaking. So I was the type that I would finish my test first, but I would be so petrified to walk it in front and put it on the teacher's desk. And like it would literally give me heart palpitations. And if I knew the answer, I didn't want to raise my hand and say it. I just didn't want to get called on. I didn't want to draw attention to myself. So when it came to college, I thought that's something that I need to work on. I'm a big believer that the things that scare you the most are probably the things that you need to do. So I took a speech class, public speaking, and I got up and I started basically making fun of myself. I basically started doing like stand-up comedy. And when I realized that people could laugh with me, then I realized that it wasn't probably so bad and that I was actually decent at it. So I got good at public speaking. And then I went to work for my father's company. He is an industrial organizational psychologist. He was a professor at that university. So I kind of grew up on that college campus. And he would train law enforcement agencies all around the United States on how to select the most appropriate police officers for the job. The process in law enforcement had always kind of been you promoted your buddy. If you were a high ranking official early on, you picked your friends and you promoted them. And that wasn't necessarily the best promotional process. So after a while, they decided that they needed to have some constraints around the process and make sure that the appropriate, most knowledgeable and skilled people were being promoted. And they hired industrial organizational psychologists to design tests and processes to promote people. So I went to work for him and started reading the standard operating procedures and general orders for law enforcement agencies. And I thought, yeah, I think this is what I want to do.
That is so cool. And the comedy thing, so you started telling jokes, huh? Just
Yeah. Well, I was always bullied as a kid. I was bullied pretty badly, and I learned kind of a quick wit at that point because I thought if I could make fun of myself first, then what are they going to do? It kind of disarms them and it takes it away from them. If I make fun of myself first, it kind of leaves them going, well, now what am I going to say? So I just kind of carried that on.
I gotta tell you, I do a segment that I call 8 Miling. I don't know if you're familiar with 8 Mile with Eminem. His whole deal was when he got to the end rap battle, all his raps were making fun of himself. So by the time the other dude went, he had nothing to say. So like I totally get that. Like and that's what I do on this. Like when I'm self conscious about something, I'm like I just say it, let them know, and then they can't hurt me with it, right? Like, I totally understand that.
That's it. It takes away their power. And I think in some ways that kind of set the stage for my career in law enforcement and being that voice for the victim, because it doesn't sit well with me, people victimizing other people. And, I think you go one way or the other, right? You become the bully or you stand up for people that are being victimized. And that's the path that I went. Is I just said, whether or not I've met people or not, I'm going to stand up for them. And I've made that kind of my career. Injustice doesn't sit well for me.
That's why you're a badass woman who rocks, and that's why you're on the show. Go ahead, babe.
I was just going to ask you, why do I have such an echo? Being a woman in your field, we touched on this via email prior to you coming on, and you said that actually in forensics, women are the majority. You said 53%, I believe. But how about trying to break into the field when you were working in STEM? You said that that was where the issue was. So could you speak to that a little bit? I know we might have people with girls with daughters watching who are involved and want to be involved in the sciences. And I know they would really appreciate some guidance from you on that.
Yeah, that's huge for me because I didn't start out to get a TV show, right? I wasn't somebody that said TV is my plan. I'm trying to get a TV show. I was speaking publicly. I got scouted and they said, well, what do you think about a TV show? And I thought about it for a long time. And the reason that I moved forward with it was because I thought, well, where I'm at now, I can reach a small group of people, but maybe if I have a TV show, I can reach a broader group. And that's really kind of what the impetus was for me moving forward with the TV show. So when we look at STEM, science in technology, engineering, mathematics, those careers are about 34% women. So we're really underrepresented in STEM careers. So why is that? Well, there are gender stereotypes. Those are masculine jobs is what they are seen as. There's fear of math coursework. Now, there are no biological cognitive differences in the male brain and the female brain. But for some reason, there is a fear of math coursework, and it gets established, this lack of confidence in math very early on with women. And it happened to me 100%. When I was in second grade, I was in this Math Superstars program where they think that you have an advanced math ability. They would pull out a group of kids and work on advanced math. And then somewhere I developed this, I can't do that. Something happened and I went, I'm very afraid of the advanced mathematics that I'm going to be required to do. And I literally started looking for college programs based on what math they required. And I've heard this from a lot of women that they go, I would love to do that, but I can't do the math. There's something somewhere that we're teaching women that says you can't do that. And it might even come down to, your math homework, go ask your father for help with that. And we're subconsciously telling girls that they don't have the same capabilities of doing the math that they are absolutely capable of doing. So there's this lack of confidence there. There's a lack of female role models in science and math, especially when we talk about brown and Black communities. And I say brown and Black because that encompasses Hispanic, Black, and Native American. So it gets even fewer. Is it because they don't exist? No, there's plenty of women that work at NASA. We just don't talk about it a lot in mainstream media. And then we've got culture. There are perpetuated exclusionary ideas, whether or not it's intentional or not intentional, that there's an attitude about a certain group of jobs that make them less appealing to women, that I won't be welcome there or that I don't belong there. Now, nearly all of the background of careers that I've had are male dominated. I've been an engineer, I've been in law enforcement. So is it it's not that I'm not accepted into those roles. When I was in law enforcement, every one of the deputies and detectives that I worked with would have been like, hell yeah, I want Alina to work my scene. Not one of them were like, ugh, I got a woman responding. No, it's not that. It's that we have to empower women to have the attitude that they think they're capable of pursuing those careers. It doesn't mean when they get there, it's not going to be fine. It's that it's not showing up on their radar, right? I didn't think about forensic science necessarily as being a career field for me, or engineering. I ended up in an engineering role because I applied for it. And to be honest, when I applied for it, I was like, I don't think I'm meant for this. Like, I don't think I'm qualified. We have to just let our children know you are equally capable. You want to go into construction? Fantastic. You want to be an engineer? Do you want to go to Embry-Riddle? Do you want to, whatever it is that you want to do, there are no male-female roles when it comes to any field out there. Now, for whatever reason, 53% approximately of crime scene investigators are women. Now, sometimes people get their panties in a wad and they go, well, that's not fair. Well, honey, it's because the men couldn't pass the test at the agency that I worked for. It doesn't mean they weren't applying. It means that they weren't passing the test or the background or anything else. These fields, whether it's construction or civil engineering or aeronautical engineering or crime scene, whatever it is, they're open to everybody. All we want to do is make sure that everybody, male or female, feels equally entitled and prepared to pursue those careers.
You're blowing my face off. That was so freaking amazing, that answer. Holy crap. And that's thank you for saying that.
Thank you for saying that. We have a teenage daughter, and same thing that you described began happening in about the 4th grade. And she had always been really confident with math, and then she wasn't. And ever since then, whenever I've gotten her a tutor, I insist on having a female tutor, because I want her, and she doesn't even need the tutor. She needs the person to tell her, you can do this. And I will always meet with the tutor beforehand. I'm like, look, she's really smart. You're going to see that. And she doesn't really need you to help her, but she needs to see you succeeding so that she knows that she can do it. And so I just commend you for everything that you're doing so that our daughters can do things like you are.
I cried at the math table, like so many other little girls or boys, either way, did, because they were so frustrated. And part of the problem is not all maths are the same, right? So if you're good at trigonometry, you might not be good at geometry. There are a lot of different maths out there. And a lot of maths don't click in somebody's head until they see it in real life practicality, right? So maybe trigonometry, when you're looking at triangles, maybe people think 2-dimensionally and it's a 3-dimensional issue. So we're teaching 2D kids that think in 3 dimensions. When you say to them 2-dimensionally, these are triangles, well, to me, I didn't understand trigonometry in school, but the second I got into crime scene and I realized trigonometry is bullet trajectory, it's billiard balls, it's a pool table if it's 2-dimensional, it's how bullets go through walls 3-dimensionally. And if I think about it as a bullet has pierced this wall, that's the thickness is this line of the triangle. And the difference in the height is this line of the triangle. I have to figure out the third side. That's Pythagorean theorem. That's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That's 3-dimensional math. If I look at it flat on a pool table, it's 2-dimensional math. Apply it to something that matters to the child, and all of a sudden they go, oh, well, why didn't you just say that? It's about finding the way that it makes sense to a child, because triangles don't mean anything to a kid. Find how it makes sense. If they're into soccer, then it's how you're kicking the ball into a goal. A goal stands up like this. You're kicking the ball like this. You got to just find this side of it, something, and make it applicable. Because all of a sudden when you do that, they go, oh, that's my job as a teacher. And then when you put those things together, right? So I taught forensic science. Now I get a TV show. Great. Now I'm not teaching a room full of 15 or 20 college kids. I can try to teach the world. hopefully make everybody feel excited about forensic science or excited about learning something. That is my goal. Change the world. I'm silly enough to feel like maybe I could change the world, but those are the people that do.
Facts, and I don't think it's silly at all. And you just that was one of my questions I was going to ask is what about teaching, not with your show, but you just answered it. But I clear just from talking to us right now, you have passion and you have an ability to explain things in a way where, like you were just explaining with the trajectory, like that makes sense, and it makes sense that to a kid like I think most of us were like a squared plus like this is I can't figure this out. But if you're trying to figure out to kick a soccer ball or play pool or play even like a video game, probably if you explain it that way, like that's how you get the buy-in, and that's when like, oh wow, I mean, just amazing. But I did want to ask you, going back to when you started your career, as a crime scene investigator, you had an interesting nickname, if I'm correct, when you first started working on the scene. Can you talk about that? Or
I don't know which one you heard about. I don't want to out one that you don't know about.
the one when you first started, getting like going on.
I was referred to as the Queen of Death.
There it is. So why the Queen of Death?
When you first start, you go through something called field training, right? And as the rookie, you take all of the calls that come in. You want the mass amount of exposure to the more types of calls. And for some reason, when I started, the only thing that was coming in was death investigations. So they were like, can somebody show Alina how to work a burglary? Like the only thing that's coming in are deaths. Like I'm in week 3, and I haven't gotten a basic burglary call. And usually it's, like you got a little checklist as a CSI and you're like, all right, burglary, bank robbery, you got to go through so you can see, the reality is you work all calls the same. It doesn't matter, what type of call it is, you're going to do the same types of things, right? You photograph the crime scene, you make your observations. But I'm just getting death after death after death after death. And I mean, I was going to 3 a day. Oh. And it was trial by fire.
I mean, but of all the nicknames, that's a pretty badass nickname, the Queen of Death. Wow.
And the juxtaposition to that is about my next question, because you have in your Instagram bio that you are an empathetic badass. And it's so interesting to me because you're clearly, when I watch you on the show, you do have that juxtaposition. You are so brilliant scientifically. Tell us how then you are using empathy, employing empathy in your scenes and on your calls and in your cases.
There are a couple reasons why it's important to me. First, when I decided to do the show, I thought about how difficult it is to be vulnerable on camera. And I had a couple of choices, right? Do I hide that side of me, or do I just lay it out there? And I thought I'm going to just lay it out there because I think it's important for the world to see, the toll that this type of job takes on someone. People don't call crime scene investigators when they're having a good day. I don't go to people's happy moments. I spent 12 years, day after day, seeing people in the most horrific, tragic moments of their lives. And I want the world to understand that this isn't CSI Miami. This isn't, quite as light as that. I think it's important for people to see that raw reality, the emotion behind it. And I think maybe as a society, we need to see some of that raw emotion. It is maybe perhaps a bit of a juxtaposition of reality TV, and not to criticize, but I think there's a bit of a candy sweetness, a Kardashian world that we live in that feels just a little false. And I feel like that needs to be, this is the reality of this. This is the reality of the situation. This is tough stuff. And I want to, and I feel that I have, I want to show that side for crime scene investigators. We often, I think, felt we were the men and women behind the curtain. Nobody really knew what we were doing. Detectives were the ones doing the press conferences. They were the ones out there saying we made the arrest, but we were the ones that kind of snuck in, did the work, snuck out, and nobody knew. We got the latent hits. We got the fingerprints that gave them the suspect to get the arrest, and then they're doing the press conference, and we kind of were always going, eh. So we were a little bit behind the curtains, but we still were there to get the trauma. We were the closest to the cases. And so I thought it's difficult to be vulnerable, and it's necessary. So there's that aspect of it. The aspect of utilizing my empathy in an investigation is you don't want to be empathetic to the point of allowing it to affect your job, affect how you do your work. But you need to be enough empathetic. You see that hard kind of cop that's like, blah, I'm here to do my job. You can't turn it off to that point. To me, you have to allow enough of it in so that I can use that skill. I have to be able to be in the victim enough to say, what was I doing when this went down? Where was I sitting? Where was I standing? Was I frightened? Did I run? What would I have grabbed? Would I have fought? Am I that type of person that would have given up? Would I have scratched? I need to be empathetic enough to go, how did this go down? What am I doing physically with myself while they're doing this to me? Where are my hands? Where's my body? Are my shoes on my feet? Thinking through the physical act of what's happening at this moment. I have to also do that with the suspect. What's the suspect doing? Where are they going inside the house? What are they touching? Because if I can do that, then I can find the evidence. Where are they stepping? That's my shoe tracks. What are they touching? That's my fingerprints. If the victim's fighting, do I have DNA under the fingernails? So I have to use that empathy to make me a better investigator, to find more evidence. That's the empathetic side. And I want to show everybody that just because you're vulnerable and that you have emotions doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you lesser of a human, because you can be a badass and have feelings. And as a matter of fact, I think it makes you a little bit stronger to be able to venture into that world and come back. I think it doesn't take a whole lot of strength to just turn that fountain off. I think it takes a hell of a lot to be able to turn it off and on.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. I'm blown away by your answers. I can't even handle this. I wanted to ask you, you started you have your TV show. Oh, by the way, Crime Scene Confidential is in its second season on Investigation Discovery. New episodes premiere Wednesdays at 9/8 Central on ID. Talking about the show, I was wondering if you could give us a little behind the scenes of what a day in the life of Alina Burrows is shooting this show. What's that like?
It's probably not as glamorous as people would like to think. It is hard work. It's probably the hardest I think I've ever worked in my life. It starts way before I'm in the town to film. We get all of the documents from the actual case. Police reports, autopsy reports, trial transcripts, crime scene photos, everything that we can get. It's usually between, depending on the case, 2,000 to 4,000 pages of documents. And I go through every single one of them. So I just open up and start reading into the case. I'll read every single thing. I open a Word doc and I just have 2 monitors up and I start reading reports. Okay, this is still available. This could be retested. What did they do then? What was available then that's not available now? This is suspicious, or this is, kind of go through that. Then usually that document is about 15 to 17 pages of my observations on that original investigation. And then once we're ready to go, the entire team kind of flies into the city where the crime occurred. Obviously, the goal is that we interview people that were involved in that main case. So my day usually starts about 2 hours before call time. So if our call time is 7:30, that's 5:30 for Alina. And I get up, I do my hair and my makeup. And we'll meet, we'll go to whatever location. So we don't have a set Crime Scene Confidential is not filmed on a set. Everything we do is on location. So it's at a crime scene, it's at a police department, it's at a forensic lab, or it's at a home of family or something like that. And then we sit down and we film our interviews.
Sounds like a lot. Like you said, it's harder work than when you're doing crime scene investigations.
It is equal. It's an equal amount of work. This is just planned because, usually we film 7 to 9 days in a row, and they are long days. They're emotional days, talking to friends, family, defense attorneys, and, prosecution, whoever. I have to have so much case information in my head at any given time, because if I'm interviewing a defense attorney, I want to be able to say, in your closing arguments, you said this, but in this part of the trial, they said this, and why didn't you question that? And I have to, and my goal is always to unearth something about the case that was never discussed originally. Like, why wasn't this ever brought up? Or this was odd to me. And I do that a few times this season.
That's cool. I know, Shannon, you have a question, about the show, but I wanted to ask something that I just thought of, and I'm curious because you talk about crime scene investigations and being empathetic, and being vulnerable and getting your emotions. Whether it's when you're a crime scene investigator or doing the show now, and you're feeling. Do you have like methods that you do to like at the end of the day to like get it off your mind or to like self decompress? I don't know what the right word is, but like, do you have anything that you do to kind of handle that?
I'm fortunate when I'm on the road with my crew, I will never not brag about my crew. They have created an environment for me that allows me to be vulnerable. Because it's always, it's one thing to be vulnerable. Now I'm vulnerable and there's a camera in my face. But I trust the person that's behind that camera. It doesn't feel intrusive because I know them and I know that they care for me. So I will never not brag about my crew. They are absolutely amazing. And I think they truly hurt when I hurt. And so there have been days when they're affected by it too. They're humans. And, we kind of wrap it up and everybody just kind of collectively is like it's a heavy day. It's hard for them, especially when we interview family. And I remember one day when one of the crew said, "Is it weird that my first instinct is to give you a hug?" And I said, no. But that's just the level of care that we have as a family, on Crime Scene Confidential. But, we'll go out to dinner together afterwards, or we talk about it. We'll talk through it. And there have been times that, we've started out and they'll say, "Well, Alina, answer me." I mean, we talk about the cases together as a crew as we film them and as they evolve.
Awesome. Go ahead, babe.
That's amazing. I was wondering about with your show. So you are familiar to some of us who are true crime buffs because we watched you testify quite a long time ago now in the Kaylee Anthony case. And when they get you to do this show, what was the process of deciding that would be the premiere episode? I was blown away by that episode because of you having to revisit the trauma that you held during that case. And so what was that decision-making process, and how, I mean, gosh, it's like go for broke on that very first episode when you said you had to be vulnerable, because you're amazingly vulnerable. And I can't imagine how you prepared for that. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I don't think there is preparation. And it was the hardest because, I never obviously had a TV show before. And I rolled up and maybe 2 hours meeting the crew for the first time ever. And 2 hours later was on camera. And that was the episode we filmed. So when you see that episode, season 1, episode 1, you are seeing the first of me navigating hosting a television show. So not only is it the most vulnerable case that I've ever, really worked, it's me figuring out how to host a television show. So it's a lot of things, I think, going through my head at the same time, when it's like, hi, nice to meet you. And then here, I have a TV show. So I don't even think at that moment I had grasped what I was doing, what my role was. I think, there's a big change in watching season 1 and season two, and me owning my role.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a minute. I will tell you, as a sidetrack, you don't know if you're going to be good at having a TV show. I'm very thankful to a man by the name of Henry Schleif, who started Court TV, who is the one that gave me a chance at having a television show. You get the show, and I say that it's much like having children, because you want to have kids, you want to have a TV show, and then you go, oh man, how do I know I'm going to be any good at this?
Right.
Because you've never had a child, you never had a TV show, but now there's a whole lot riding on it, right? And there's a whole lot of people that want you to be good at it. And so then you start getting real like, how do I know I'm going to be any good at this? So, I don't have kids. I have 2 seasons of TV. But when it comes to the Anthony case, we felt like it was important to introduce me to the world. Mm-hmm. Why does anybody care about Alina Burrows? Why does anybody care what I have to say? Why is anybody going to trust me as an investigator? And, that's certainly a large case that a lot of the world watched unfold. Mm-hmm. And, as they watched it unfold, I was working it. I was on the crime scene every day. I had helicopters following me home. And it wasn't any different in the aspect of we didn't do our jobs any differently, but that was the first time the world watched what a CSI maybe does.
Right.
And so I think that's why it was important to introduce the world to me and say, okay, this is Alina. This is what she does. And, maybe do you want to keep following her along on this journey? And we hope that you do. We did not do a pilot episode for Crime Scene Confidential. We came out with season 1 with 6 episodes. And then you just hope that people want to watch and hope you get a season 2. And then we got a season 2, and now we hope people watch so that we can get a season 3. And that's kind of how it works in the TV industry.
Yeah, so make sure you are watching Crime Scene Confidential on Investigation Discovery, Wednesdays, 9/8 Central. One thing I wanted to talk about is something that I clearly couldn't pull off, but you pull off every episode, is, the black and the hair. And we talked about this. There's a method to your madness. If you could let the folks know, what's the method to your madness?
So I realize I'm a lot to look at when it comes to, having pink hair. And the other thing I do think is funny when people are critical of that, if an old white dude named Henry Schleif thinks that it's okay to put on TV, I think you can be okay with it too. They were okay with it. We've seen crime stories historically from the perspective of a lot of men, a lot of white men. And this was kind of the first time that we've seen maybe crime story from the perspective of Crime Scene Investigator. That's what makes this show different. We've heard detective stories. We've heard police stories. We've even heard SWAT. And we've heard crime scene from the entertainment side of things. But really, since the start of CSI, when it started as medical detectives, we've not followed the evidence and spoken to a crime scene investigator, who I will argue is really the one closest to the evidence. So that's what's different with Crime Scene Confidential, is we look at the evidence from the perspective of a CSI. So we'd never seen it from a CSI before. We'd certainly not seen it from one that looks like me, that's tatted up, has some piercings. Obviously, I have pink hair. So that's a lot. Well, when it comes to wardrobe, didn't really want to add to that with, crazy clothing as well. We don't always know where we're going to film, so I don't want to also be fighting the background We want to show reverence to the people that I'm speaking to. And I don't want to take away or take our viewers out of that conversation by them looking at, oh, what is she wearing and what does she have on? But also at the same time, how do I express myself and have some sense of style? Also, you don't have a huge budget with a season 1 because they're still figuring out if people are going to watch it. And I already had a lot of black clothes in my closet. So all of these things together, and I'm very pale, and black goes well with the pink hair. So we kind of took all these things and went, well, if you keep consistent with that kind of dark, muted wardrobe, it'll go well with your light, fair complexion. I'm Scottish. It'll go well with the pink hair. It doesn't take people out of the conversation. We don't want them looking at your clothes. And you're talking to people about homicide. So it shows reverence to the topic, the material, and it just kind of seemed to tick all of those boxes. So season 2, we've introduced a few more colors, I think, but they're still calm.
Very cool. Well, babe, before you get to your next question, we did do a contest on the Twitter or the X, whatever the hell you want to call it. We did a little contest for folks to let Alina know that she rocked. And every person that responded and said why she rocked got put on a wheel that I have here. There it is. There's the wheel. And we're about to give out a court jester shirt to one winner who, let Alina know that she's a rock star and she rocks. So let me just play this. And here we go. And babe, you get your question ready for let me spin the wheel. Let's see who the winner is.
And you have the best fans.
Thank you. They're awesome. Oh, Amy Bow Slime. I think she's here. Amy, big winner. Amy. Thank you so much, everyone, for letting Alina know that she rocks, because she really freaking does. Holy crapola. And I mean, after this, she rocks even more than I even thought. Go ahead, babe. You had a question.
Well, I was just going to piggyback on that question a little bit because I really admire your tenacity to be yourself and, to have your pink hair and have not so nice comments on the internet about that kind of thing. Your Instagram is wonderfully curated. I can tell that you like fashion, but you also mix in some of your, like you have the yellow of the crime scene tape and the tool. And I love that. And what's your feeling about fashion in general? I don't know. I can tell that there's something there. I want to know what it is.
You want to peek inside my closet?
Yes.
I do. I really like, I honestly, when I started college, before you really know kind of where you're going or what it is that you want to do, I started as an art history major and a music minor. And so I love art. I like, I have done, makeup in the past. One of the things I get made fun of is when I get good at something, I move on to the next. So I've had a lot of careers. And so I like expressing myself. I love the fact that I can wake up and do my makeup however I want for that particular day, whatever it is that I want to be that day, or my hair. I did hair model for a while, which is how I ended up with pink hair. I've had it shaved on both sides. I had a faux hawk when I was in Crime Scene. I've done hair shows where I've had hair extensions that have been rainbow color. I've had glow in the dark hair. You name it. I've just always thought that you should feel free to express yourself however it is that you want. Clothing, hair, makeup, all of those things are ways that we can do that. And part of it comes from being in law enforcement. When you're in that job, you are told how you can do everything. The law enforcement joke is if we wanted you to have an opinion, we would have issued you one. So when you're in that kind of career and you're in that field where they tell you what hair color you can have, how many piercings you can have, what kind of clothing you can wear. The second I got out of law enforcement, I was like, I'm going to do whatever it is that I want, right? So I always had tattoos in law enforcement, but they always had to be hidden. So all of my tattoos that came to where a short sleeve, polo covered them, all of a sudden grew all the way down to where they could be seen. And I got my nose pierced and the pink hair. And because part of it was just, I think, I have a rebellious personality. I rebel against being told what I can't do. And I think that kind of came out. So fashion wise, I like black and white. I like pieces that I can mix and match. I like to throw a little bit of metal in there. Always have a little bit of punk influence, I think. I'm probably somewhat of an elder emo. There, yeah, you name it. I like juxtaposition. I definitely do. That was the photo shoot I did with the Tool was like, can you have that element of femininity and princessness with like combat boots?
Which that is another thing that I feel like I just want to thank you for, because you are showing women who are in STEM it's okay to be yourself. You don't have to look like the dowdy little scientist. And you also don't have to look like a princess. You can look how you want to look. And I love your attitude online because you look how you want to look and you don't make any apologies about it. And people can take their opinions and shove them up their asses.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I would never dream of telling another human what they should wear, how they should look, because that's their choice. If they want to tell me that they don't like my hair, that's fine. That's certainly their opinion. That's their right. I would prefer that they didn't, but love it or hate it, it's my head, and I'm going to color it however I would like.
Love it.
Let me ask this, Alina. Is your publicist going to be mad? I hope I'm saying this enough, guys. Crime Scene Confidential, second season on Investigation. This is the first time we've had a publicist.
On Wednesdays, guys.
You're fine.
Yeah, Wednesdays, 9/8 Central. They've been putting it in the chat this entire time, so I hope that Warner Brothers doesn't come knocking on my door and punching me in the neck.
I don't think that's what they do. So,
so one thing I want to talk about is Cheryl Mack McCollum. Who we absolutely love, who is just the greatest ever. She actually gave me and Shannon, I don't know if you know this, Alina, she gave us the exclusive, and we announced it on the stream on a different episode of Women Who Rock with Karen Smith, that there was going to be a national BTK task force. So I'm wondering, A, if you have any good Mac stories, and B, what it was like when they say, hey, Alina, we want you on. I know you can't give details. I understand that. But like, what was it like when they say, hey, you're a badass and we want you on our task force?
Honestly, that's exactly what they said, by the way.
They should have.
No, it didn't even register. It was just like, hey, this is what's happening. Would you be willing to take a look? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And that was it. I literally grabbed my phone. I got the text. I said, yeah, absolutely. And I put it down. It's a case. I want to solve it like everybody else. There are, potential cases, potential victims. And like anybody else, I just want to solve it. So gonna do my best.
And I think you did. Were you the one who gave Mac those cool shoes, or I know you guys had like a fashion?
No,
thing.
She saw my crime scene shoes, and then she went out and got her own pair of crime scene shoes.
All right, I see.
But that's what happens when you're a leader in fashion.
God, it's almost been an hour already. I know, babe, you had one. I think you had one other about.
I do, because we are big trial watchers here. We love to watch a trial, and we would love to hear what it's like to be on your side of the bench when you're testifying and when you're being cross-examined. What's that like?
So I had considered briefly being an attorney. I took the LSAT, and before I decided to go crime scene, I had considered going that route. So I love court. So court is not intimidating to me. I actually kind of get settled in my little box and I'm like, what you got? Bring it on. So I like court. I like the fact that I know where they're trying to lead me. And I'm like, yeah, not today, Satan. they're trying to, take you down a path, especially when they do the like CSI Burrows, you're really good at your job, right? And I'm like, oh, great. Yeah, I try. And they're trying to get you to say like, yeah, I'm great. I'm perfect. I never mess up, blah, blah, blah. And then they hit you with the, well, then why didn't you A, B, and C? There are a lot of, court is a game. And if anybody says different, they're lying. It is who presents the information better, more theatrically, whatever you want to call it. It's a show. 100%. I've learned that through 2 seasons of Crime Scene Confidential. It's a show because the jurors have to determine, validity, reliability of evidence that they're presented. And the thing is, jurors aren't experts. Jurors have to trust that the people being paraded in front of them are, and sometimes they aren't. And, I could get on another soapbox and we don't have time for that, but it's, I do like trial. There were many times in many cases that I had used some tricks myself, because there's, the CSI effect that's been renamed the tech effect, where jurors have the expectations of seeing certain amounts of forensic evidence, whether or not it was collected in a case or not. And I would use that definitely to my advantage. I would use my teaching background to my advantage, because if attorneys are going to ask me questions, I've been asked things like if I'd processed a lawn for fingerprints, like grass. And the thing is, like, jurors don't always, because of things like television shows, entertainment-based television shows, and this is why my show is different, is that they don't know what's the reality behind what a crime scene investigator does. So they'll look at you like, well, did you? And if the defense attorney can ask enough questions in a row where I have to say no, it doesn't matter if that's done or not. I just have to say, no, I didn't process the lawn. Did you collect an air sample to prove that battery occurred? No. The jury doesn't know that isn't science, right? That doesn't happen, and I'm like envisioning myself running through the crime scene with a Ziploc bag, like, zoop, got it, that's not a thing. That's not science. And they want me to just say no, 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 because if I repeatedly say no, I didn't do that, then the next thing is, well, what did you do? Mm-hmm. Now, I look like a terrible investigator. I look like I effed up the entire crime scene. And now the jury's like, well, she is terrible. Mm-hmm. What did she even do? And the 10 questions they've just asked me aren't science. There aren't anything a crime scene investigator would even do. It's a show.
And it sounds like it's frustrating as hell. I mean, man, are you glad you don't have to do that anymore?
I do miss court a little, but I would look to the jury and be like, I have literally in my life looked to the jury and said, that's not a thing.
Yes.
I just said, that's not a thing.
Wow. Alina, holy cow. I mean, I can't believe it's been an hour already, but I know everyone in the chat. By the way, your Twitter and Instagram are going in the chat, so make sure you're following her on Twitter. And I think Alina said would prefer Instagram. That's your primary.
It's so ADHD. Twitter confuses me because then there's too many things and I miss it and I can't see the original. Like I'm way more interactive on Instagram.
Yeah, so check her out on Instagram and check her out every Wednesday at 9, 8 Central on Investigation Discovery.
Are you listening?
Crime Scene Confidential, Wednesdays, 9, 8 Central. So, Alina, any final words, anything you want to say about the show or anything, whatever you want, go for it.
Well, I just appreciate everybody here. Everybody's very, very supportive, very kind, and it is National Forensic Science Week. So thank you to all the forensic scientists, crime scene investigators, police, latent print examiners, all of the variety of forensic science fields out there. Thank you for the support that everybody has shown me and for giving me a platform to be able to talk and, I don't know, smile, because I don't do a lot of that on the show. So I do have teeth.
Let me one more time though, for folks that are on Kick, because I think this is just the coolest thing. Let me one more. And babe, do you have anything you want to add? By the way,
No,
throw up. Yeah, there they are. Throw up the emojis in Kick, guys. Throw them up on the screen. throw up the Alina emojis. There they
You
are.
haven't watched the show. Just watch the show, you guys. It's so good.
All right, I think that's.
glad
Oh, there they are. Here they come. I had to wait. There they are. There's Alina, all over.
It's
Amazing.
raining Alinas.
Seriously, though, Alina, we can't thank you enough for coming on with us. I hope we got some new folks who are going to watch the show. And I think is Warner Brothers going to be mad if my outgoing song has a curse in it, because it does, and now I'm questioning.
No, you're overthinking it.
All right, then fine. Then deuces, YOLO, fuck you, Ted.